Hello, Fuzzy here. It is a great day. Look at this. 2021 Royal Enfield Himalaya. The good folks at Baxter Cycle said I could go put a couple hundred miles on this thing. I drove it Saturday, about 10 miles. I drove it yesterday or day before yesterday, 5 or so miles off-road. And today they said, you know, a couple hundred miles, have at it. But look at this thing. Isn't this just beautiful? I've put about 50 or 60 miles on it already this morning. I meant to stop earlier, but it's hard to do when you're having so much fun. But what we're going to do is we're going to go over its features. We'll talk about its engine, what they've done to that. We'll talk about the great suspension. We'll talk about how she rides on the highway and how she rides in this stuff. We'll go over the gauge cluster, electronics, you know, everything about her, the brakes. And at the end of all that, I'm going to tell you what I think. Let's go have some fun. Wahoo! Love it. Handles good. There's the tire at will. Wow. Look where we're at. Big body of water over yonder. There's a home over there, but we've been going down this dirt road. We call these Class B in Iowa. We are in the Luss Hills. This thing handles this kind of road very well. This is actually a very smooth part. There was quite a bit of ruts over yonder, and no problem. Bike did well. You know, it's got 8 inches of clearance, crown clearance. 8.5, I think, actually. Anyway, so who is this bike for? Online they were saying it's aimed at entry-level people, and I don't believe that. I think it's aimed at people like me. You know, the world revolves around us, right? And we are people. I'm somebody who has a couple motorcycles, and they're street bikes, and I want something fun to ride. And boy, that one is it right there. This will take you on these kind of roads or rougher. It'll take you up and down hills, all kinds of things. The bike is, you know, if you are a beginner, I think it would work very well. You know, it looks tall, but when you sit on it, I'm 5 foot, I don't know, 5'9". I've got a 30-inch inseam. Sit on the bike and I'm fine. You know, I don't know if I can flat foot, but I'm secure enough. But anyway, the styling is interesting. You know, I've never been a Royal Enfield guy until the last couple of years, and I've driven 3 bikes now in the last year. I drove the 500, I've driven the 350 Meteor, and I've driven this as of this week. And I've got to tell you, I'm hooked. These things are just phenomenal. They're great. They handle well. They drive well. They brake well. They just seem to do everything well. I like them. The looks are of this bike are, you know, that adventure bike market kind of thing. And I'll tell you what, this adventure bike will get more off-road miles than any of those big bikes will, because nobody wants to put their, you know, $20,000. I'm not going to mention any brands. They're beautiful $20,000, you know, hot rods into this kind of a situation. This bike is made for it. You know, the Himalayas are a rough place. This bike's the Himalaya. And if you drop this motorcycle, you know, there isn't, you know, we've got crash guards. I mean, you might lose a blinker. You know, it's pretty darn tough. You know, it's just not, you know, when I got here, my kickstand sunk in over here, and I had to find a stick. And if this thing fell over, it wouldn't be a fortune. Some of those big bikes, they fell over, it would be $5 grand, you know. So anyway, about the engine, let's go to that. First thing is, it's air cooled. And if you look at that, that means you can get to everything. There's no radiator in the way, there's no hosing, there's none of that stuff's there. It's a 411cc, puts out about, I think it was 25 horsepower. Let's say 24 or 5 horsepower, and about as much torque, 23 or 4 foot-pounds of torque. The bike has a red line of, I think it's 6.5. Yeah, about 6.5. And going down the road at 60, the motor is pushing about 4,600 RPM. Not too bad. It's fuel injected. Quick little bit of voiceover here. The engine is under square, overbuilt, long stroke, 411cc, makes about 24 to 25 horsepower and 23 to 24 foot-pounds of torque. Has a relatively low, actually a very low 65 5,500 RPM redline. In use, when I was riding the bike, it was generally between 2,000 and 5,500 RPM. A lot of times right at 3. Maximum torque is around 4,000 RPM, I think, or 4,500, something like that. You know, with the underscore design of the long stroke, this thing just produces loads of torque. Always had plenty of torque. Never lacked for that. Advantages for this high torque, low RPM engine are it's easy to get going from a dead stop. It's easy to drive slow. It's easy, you know, it's got a really wide friction zone in the clutch. It was very rideable, very controllable, very easy going. And then while riding the bike, you know, in town or going through the gears, had plenty of torque. Has a 5-speed gearbox, like I said, single cylinder. The thing about this bike is, look at that, everything's accessible. You can get to everything right there. It's very simple, no cowlings to remove, nothing. The bike has a valve adjustment period of 6,000 miles, I think, for the first one. It might be longer after that, but what do you got to do that? Well, you pop the tank off, seat and tank off, and take the valve cover off, and there's only 2 valves. I think this is a 2-valve motor. Single overhead cam, twin valve, you know, one intake, one exhaust, so very easy to get to. Engine has an oil cooler. I didn't realize that. That's very nice. So this is basically the kind of motorcycle you could take care of yourself easily. You know, it's easy to get to the stuff. I think it's made for that. I think the market, you know, the Indian market, the consumers are more reliant on their own skills versus a shop. Of course, you can always take it to a shop. So a 5-speed transmission. The shifter, it looks stubby, but it's not. I want to jump real quick. These foot pegs, Royal Enfield does these nice wide foot pegs, and I do like that. And these inserts pop off out if you want to do dirt. See, they just pop right out. I'm not going to do it. Anyway, I think there's a bolt on the bottom. But I've enjoyed the shifter. It's worked very well. The transmission is relatively smooth. It's not industrial at all. Goes in and out of every gear without a problem. I haven't had any false neutral, I haven't had any into neutral shifts or anything like that at all. As a matter of fact, I would say that the transmission has worked flawlessly on this bike and actually on every Royal Enfield I've ever ridden. So I like that. The final drive is a chain on this bike. I think they're chain on all Royal Enfields. But again, that's what you want in a rough bike, you know. And I'll just go on and say, look at that, center stand. So chain, but you know, you got a center stand to do when you do that maintenance, or any maintenance for that matter. I like it. I like it. I think the motor is tough. Okay, how does it do driving? Well, I've had a ball driving it. The road experience, when I got the bike today, I immediately took it on the interstate. I had my app on to get my mileage by satellite. The bike, I had it topping out at 82 with me sitting upright, not tucked down. The other day I had it at 85 with me tucked down. But anyway, my app said I topped out at 80. So speedometer's within 2 miles an hour. That's very good. My Honda would not do that. The power on the 2-lane blacktops that are so common in Iowa, that are just beautiful, you know, a lot of fun to ride. This bike's got plenty of power for that. It'll hold 70, 75 all day long, you know. It doesn't have any trouble doing that at all, not a bit. And it'll, you know, like I said, it'll go 80. So it's smooth and clunky, and it picks up well, and you know, you have to use the gearbox to get going and all that neat stuff. But first, speaking of gearbox, first and second are pretty close together, at least to my feel. On this road I was doing a lot of first and second, and then I had to hit third on the smooth spots. This is actually a very smooth spot right here. So I think it is tight on first and second, and then it opens up third, fourth, fifth, because like I said, it'll go 80. So very nice. Electric start, of course, they all are anymore. Isn't that neat? Exhaust system, there's a pre-cat and a cat in the back end here. What that means is if you get an aftermarket pipe, you can probably get a little more power out of this thing. You know, if you got, well anyway, I like it. So style-wise, if you like adventure bikes, this is a good looking bike, I believe. Who's it aimed at? I think it's aimed at the beginner, but I think it's also aimed at somebody that wants a fun bike, you know, an adventure bike that you can actually go out and adventure on. I think that it'll, well, okay, we'll get into that more later. I want to go ride. Next stop, we'll talk about the suspension, the brakes, and some other things like that. But isn't this just a beautiful, beautiful day for a beautiful ride? Yahoo! Let's do it. We're on gravel this time. I think it's called the Fontenelle Loop. We're over by Pisgah. I'm about 100 miles on this bike today, and just having a ball with it. Yeah, it's just been a lot of fun. I just did a bunch of this gravel up to the end of that dead end and back, and of course a couple miles of it over yonder, and it's just, it handles well. It just does it so well. It reminds me when I was a kid. I used to have had an on-off KE100 that just loved this stuff, and it's bringing back a lot of that kind of vibe, but with a lot more, you know. I was talking about the engine earlier. One thing I'd like to talk about is the throttle on the engine. It's a very wide throttle. In other words, it isn't touchy. It isn't, you know, vroom vroom. It's vroom vroom. Do that again. Vroom vroom. Anyway, so it isn't the kind of thing that's going to jump out from underneath you, which means you have a lot of control over what happens. And I like that. I like that a lot. You know, I'm not an everyday bike, you know, off-roader, so that kind of thing is very appealing to me. So let's talk about the suspension this time. I think there's 7 3/4 travel on the front and about 7 in the back. It's a regular shock on the front, you know, lower, right side up they call them. It's got these boots on here to protect the seals. I think it handles great. This got 21-inch wheel. You know, I've driven some other bikes with 21-inch wheels, and they seem kind of heavy in the front. This one really doesn't. I don't know what they've done with the geometry on this, but it seems, you know, it's got a 58-inch wheelbase, and it seems shorter than that. It turns very easily in the road. It never feels tall, even though I know it is tall. You know, when I sit on it, I told you earlier that it, you know, flat foot's easy. It really doesn't. I'm on my tiptoes, but so as far as the suspension goes on front, I think it's very good. It's not adjustable, but I don't, you know, that's okay. You know, for what I do, I'm not a racer. I'm just a guy out having a ball. A guy out having a ball. That's me. Thank you, Baxter Cycle, Marnie, Iowa, and Royal Enfield. The rear is this beautiful monoshock, and at first I thought it was kind of tight, you know, on the highway, and maybe it was, but I don't think it is actually. I think as I've ridden it, it seems to be a little spongy at road speeds, 55, 65. I'm sorry, 65 or more. Not spongy as in soft, but you know, it's got the dirt bike feel on the highway, and that's to be expected, I suppose. On this kind of road, I felt like it's just performed admirably, and same with the dirt that we were on earlier. It does it very well. There is an adjustment. It's got a linked, you know, it's linked. I think you can see that there. There's an adjustment for compression. I think that's the only adjustment there is on that. I'm very happy with it. It's worked very well for what I've been doing today, and I think it would work very well for anything that I would do with this motorcycle in the future. You know, I'm not a hardcore off-roader, so it's, you know, take it down to the river and go on the sandbars and things like that. Yeah, I don't know if this bike would do well in the sand, but it's just been a blast, you know. So suspension, I'm giving it an A on that. I'm saying they did very well on that adventure bike suspension. Good. It's a 17-inch back wheel, by the way. Let's talk about the brakes. So how are these? I think these are on the road, they seemed like they could do more, but what I think is that they're set up for this, and I think on these roads they're phenomenal. They don't have to worry about them grabbing. They do very well. I've always slowed down. I haven't had to worry, you know, they've got anti-lock front and back, but I just haven't had any issues with them. I felt very confident with these brakes. It's got it looks like a single piston on the back, and a dual piston on the front. Yeah, with a floating caliper. Yep, piston on one, 2 pistons on one side, floating caliper, and a single piston on the back, floating caliper. Yes, exactly that. Anti-lock on the rear can be shut off. There's a switch for that right here. So you can, you know, be a real dirt bike rider and skid your tire. And let's see, what else can I tell you about it? So on the brakes, I think good stuff. I like it. Modern brakes are an amazing thing. You know, when I started riding bikes, you don't want to hear about that crap. Anyway, suspension, good travel. Ground clearance is about 8.5 inches, I believe. So I've got 7 inches of travel in the rear, 7 5/8, 7 7/8 on the front. I got 8.5 inches of ground clearance. The bike, like I said, for the light off-roading that I've been doing today and would probably do in the future, probably as it is right now, stock would work just fine. I don't see any problem with it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm worried that I may end up with one of these. I like the spoke wheels too, by the way. It's, you know, the more I ride it, the look is really growing on me. I think I'm becoming emotionally invested in it because, you know, it's just so much fun. Just so much fun. Every minute of this ride today has just been a ball. Look at that, isn't that just beautiful? Luggage rack. I think you can put panniers on here. I've got solid ones and also soft ones, I'm sure. I've seen people put lots of things on here, fuel tanks and extra luggage and all kinds of things like that. Just a quick add-on. This is an American-made product. The windscreen on this, and we'll talk about that in the next stop. Drivability, the gauge cluster, the equipment that comes on it, the drivability of the motorcycle, and the comfort. But for right now, I want to go eat lunch, but I'm not gonna because I'm having too much fun. So I'm gonna hop back on that hot rod, and away we go. Wahoo! Beautiful, man, beautiful. We are at Wilson Lake between Pisgah and Woodbine, Iowa. There's our hot rod on our center stand. Doesn't that look good? I've just had a ball riding her. I don't want to take her back, but you know, they're going to want her back. I don't want to take her back. Let's talk about what's on the dash. You know, I wanted to tell you that this dash wasn't that cool, but it is. It's an analog dash. You know, it's got a tachometer over here. It's got the, you know, it's all analog. It's what, you know, a lot of people call old school. You know, I was going to tell you that it was dated and all that stuff, but it's not. It's actually very nice to use, and it feels very robust. You know, it's got a real fuel gauge that actually works. I filled this thing with gas earlier. A compass, which, you know, it seems like a toy, but I've had a ball with it, and it's something I use in my car all the time. The tachometer, you know, the speedometer, it's got trip A, trip B, average miles per hour, all kinds of other things. You know, gear indicator, which a lot of people my age will tell you is frivolous, but it's not. Once you have one, you always want one. It's got a, you know, Fahrenheit temperature, you know, thermometer. That's what I'm looking for. I like it. It's easy to use. It's what I'm familiar with, you know, with analog readings. Nothing against modern digital stuff. That stuff's beautiful too. But for this bike, this is a $5,000 motorcycle. This is absolutely appropriate, and it's tough. So it controls, here's the ABS control. You can turn the ABS on and off by pushing this button. There's a light right there. Mode control here for this thing, and then the reset thing over here. Little lights for engine, neutral. It's got a left and a right blinker light, so you left blinker light, right blinker light. It works very well. I'm impressed with it. The switch gear also, I've been very impressed with the switch gear. Let's do the horn here real quick. I'm not sure what this is. That must be flash to flash kind of thing. High lows. This year the bike has a hazard light switch. I don't think it had one before. start, and of course the kill switch. Gas on that side. Front brake, hydraulic of course. Cable actuated clutch. I feel that the clutch is very has good feel and pretty good control, and it's not heavy, it's not light. I'm pretty happy with that. I really cannot fault the gear on this bike, and then it's the kind of adventure bike you would actually go on off-road adventures. You know, it's really made for that. It's you know, I would put, what would I do if this was my bike? Well, I would put panniers on it, or at least a back bag, probably, you know, so I could carry rain gear and you know, the light stuff that you like to carry when you ride. I ride a lot. I ride 20-30,000 miles a year. Anyway, comfort. Am I comfortable on it? Well, I put over 100 miles on it already today, and I'm going to put another 50 to 100 on it. The seat is good. I could ride that seat all day long. I don't have any problems with that at all. It's wide. It's got some length. You can slide forward and backwards. You can even hop on there if you want. Works pretty darn well. The you know, where your feet land, they're not back. They're in a good position. They've got wide foot pegs, easy access brake lever, and easy access. You know, I talked about the shifter lever already. It looks pudgy, but it's not. And in my compared to my Honda, you have an upright seating position, but you have a slight reach forward. The handlebars, I don't think are as wide as my bike. They could be, but I don't think they are. But they're plenty wide. Plenty wide. I don't have any trouble with that at all. And this is very important. This guard here keeps it works incredibly well. It doesn't look very big, but it works incredibly well. It keeps the wind off of my chest. And that means a lot, you know. That's my head is in the full air. You know, you have to wear a helmet with eye protection on this thing, for sure. But as far as that little thing goes, it keeps it right off your chest. No trouble at all. I really like that. Royal Enfield. It's well made. It looks well made. It's also American made, by the way. Other things about the bike. I don't think these are digital. I think this is halogen. Well, it is halogen. You know, I don't think these are digital. But then again, this is, like I said, it's a $5,000 motorcycle. So comfort, I could ride all day on this approval thing. How does she ride? Well, I did a bunch of washboard on the gravel I was on earlier, and it handled that perfectly, beautifully. I had from the last stop to this stop, I had a pack of dogs around in front of me on that same Iowa gravel. Emergency stop, no problem at all. The brakes are excellent. I think they are excellent for what they're made for. The handling on dirt, I think I had it on sand, I had it on dirt, and I had it on gravel. Handled well on all of those items. So what do I think of the bike? I think I just said it, didn't I? Well, I like it. It's on my top 3 motorcycles list for the year. What would bring this so close to the top of that list? The rideability, the fact that it can do so many things. You know, I can hop on this and drive 70 miles an hour all day long. After thinking about this, I don't think I would ride this bike at 70 miles an hour all day long. 60, 65, I think she'd be just fine. I took her on some curvy roads that I'm real familiar with, hilly, curvy, and 60, 65, pushed through there. It was a lot of fun. You felt like a fighter pilot. You know, it's the old drive a small motorcycle fast thing. A lot of fun. But at 70, the vibration starts to, you can feel the vibration of the handlebars, and by 80, it's really intense for modern motorcycle standards. Up to 70, there's really no vibration. Between 60 and 65, it's a very smooth motorcycle. To get to where I want to go, if I wanted to drive across Nebraska on this, I really believe I could do that. I think it's comfortable enough. There's enough space. There's a good enough seat. I think the ride quality is decent enough. You know, it floats on the highway, which is very comfortable. I like the fact that once I got there, I could go off-roading. You know, this is the kind of bike you could drive to a particular state. Let's say it would get you know, I live in Iowa. I could buzz across 600 miles to Colorado and then spend a great deal of time on the back hills, you know, logging roads and such of the mountains, this would get you there. It has the legs to get you there. And then once you got there, it would do those kind of things for you. You know, you could take it off-roading, you know, the dirt roads, the log roads, the gravel roads, things like that. Let's talk more about what's good about it. It's affordable. I've driven a couple really good high-end adventure bikes in the last couple months, and I loved them. They were beautiful things. Those are bikes that if they fell over once would have more damage than this bike cost. This is the kind of bike that you would buy and you would ride. You would, like I did today, you would take it off-roading. This is the bike where your horizon would expand, because you would have the normal roads plus the gravel roads plus the dirt roads. This is the bike, I'm in Loess Hills right now. This is the kind of bike I would take all over Loess Hills. It would just expand my world, motorcycling wise. This is the kind of bike, could you drive across America on this bike? If you have the time, you could, and you would enjoy it. Like I said, you could, it'll get you to the next state, and you could get there and explore. I wouldn't want to, you know, I use the old, you know, have coffee in LA and supper in Boston 3 days later. I don't know if I'd want to do that on this bike. This is more of a take a month to get from LA to Boston, you know, and enjoy the view all the way across kind of bike. And I think it would do that wonderfully. I don't think you'd have any issues. I think it's made to be easy to maintain. You know, that engine. I have not had any trouble with traffic today. I never once thought, boy, this thing is underpowered. Not once. For the kind of driving I do, you know. It's hey, that's metal. Yeah, maybe not. It's got good looks. It's got me sold, guys. Baxter Cycle, Marnie, Iowa, Royal Enfield. Make sure you take one of these for a ride. And I guarantee you, and you know, especially if you really intend to go off-road, take one of these for a ride. This will get you there. This will do it. This is the bike you will have fun on. This is a bike you can afford to drop. You know, you cannot afford those. Well, anyway, I love it. I just love it. And I think it's going to be easy to maintain. I challenge Royal Enfield to lend me this bike for 2 days. I'll bring it back with 1,000 miles on it. Lend it to me for 1 day. I'll bring it back with 500 miles on it. In 4 states. The gauntlet has been thrown. All right, guys. Baxter Cycle, Marnie, Iowa. Thank you so much. Royal Enfield, I appreciate it so much. I'm a Royal Enfield fanboy now. I never was before, but after driving this in the Metro, the Meteor, I'm just hooked. They're, you know, the bikes are nice. I like them. Good stuff. Get a chance to ride them, get out there and do it. Life is good. Ride a lot. Enjoy it. Wahoo! Gonna try to make this quick. Great reasons to buy this Himalayan. First, incredibly fun and exciting to ride. I can't tell you what a ball I had on this bike. Second, it's a true adventure bike that you'll actually take off-road. Something you're going to have fun with. 300-mile range on a tank of gas. 75 miles a gallon. You know, all-day fun for 4 gallons of gas. What more could you ask for? 4, and then this is really important, excellent price. $5,000 to start. At that price, this is a real adventure bike, because this is a bike you'll take on real adventures. You'll take it out in the middle of nowhere for that price. Okay, thank you Baxter Cycle of Marnie, Iowa. Appreciate this. Thank you Royal Enfield for letting me put the 180 miles on this bike today. This bike is a real winner. Thank you to y'all for watching and for your time. I appreciate that. If you have an interesting bike that we can make a video of, please get a hold of me. Life is short. Get out there and ride. Wahoo!